Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast with your host, Cody Janssen.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, presented by CST Tires and hosted by myself, Cody Janssen. Man, I gotta start by thanking everybody that reached out to us, everybody that hit us with kind words, and all the support of the show. It was so much more than I originally expected, and the show ended up being probably even more of a hit than I expected. We did really big numbers, 4 or 5 digit figures in the first show, and the response was amazing. And all the riders, the top riders that were posting about the show and talking about it, and we got all the subscribers and likers and just all the people that got behind the show. It was really cool to see people kind of saying that they were looking for something like this just as I was. So, that was really awesome. So, again, thank you for everybody that supported the show, because it was something I was really nervous about. Like, you don't know if people are going to get behind what you're doing or if they're going to, not support it, not think it's a cool idea. So again, here we are doing episode 2, and I couldn't be more grateful. If you're listening again, that means we did something right in the first one. So again, I appreciate it so much. And I also got to thank our sponsors, our title sponsor, CST Tires, DID Racing Chain, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, DP Brakes, and 100% of their new Armega Goggle out now. We couldn't do it without our sponsors here, and can't thank everybody that supports this show enough. And it starts with those people that they came on from the beginning not knowing what this was going to be, and I think already most people it's already surpassed what some people probably thought was going to happen here. So thanks to the sponsors, thanks to you guys again. And so we'll start with the Evans Coolant Sight Lap segment, and we got an awesome show tonight, a different style show. Different style show than last week. We're going to talk about some of the racing from Sunset Ridge last weekend, all kinds of storylines from the weekend, and we're going to have some pretty cool guests with us tonight. 2/3 of the Pro Podium is going to join us, and so really excited about that. And I was kind of thinking about other than what you hear on the podium, if you're if you're watching the race in person, if you're at the event, or if you're hearing like a clip on the TV shortly after when you see the replay on TV. But other than that, you don't hear much from these racers. So I wanted to kind of give that to people with this show, and I think you're going to find a lot of cool insight with this, what you hear from the racers, some of the things that they say following the races, and it's not, so much podium talk like you hear. Hopefully give you a little insight, and it kind of makes you more intrigued about the racing. At least it does for me, because you listen to the way these guys think, and that they're thinking about like normal things that we would think about, and we're just maybe average Joes. So really excited about that. Some really insightful and in-depth race recap with Chad Wienen, who's going to rejoin the show. He was the feature in episode 1, and Cody Ford will join the show, coming off his first Pro Podium in only his 6th try. So and he's the first rookie pro to get on the podium since 2011. So really excited to feature those guys tonight, and do some race recap from last weekend at Sunset Ridge. But before we go into that, I want to introduce the crew that we got here tonight. I got my producer to my right, Dallas. Thanks for being here, and I guess we got what I would suppose is kind of a co-host tonight. Tyler Hamrick, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me. Couldn't be more pumped to get this thing going. I'm super stoked that you got this podcast rolling. I know I was hounding you for weeks to get it going, and I've just been waiting for this to drop and waiting for this moment. I'm a little bit nervous.
Yes, we're pumped to have you. It's cool because did I get you into podcasts? I was trying to remember how that went. Did I show you the podcast I was listening to, and that's how you kind of got
Yes,
into podcasts? Yeah, that's what I thought.
yes, I was kind of a hater on it to begin with, but I gave it a chance, and man, I'm like hooked. I listen to that more than music when I'm driving nowadays. So you started a new thing.
Yeah, and I think that you kind of had the same thing. Like you would have liked to listen to, ATVMX content, but there was none out there. So, I mean, I listened to all kinds of supercross and motocross stuff, and then I found that I cared more about that kind of racing because I was more educated.
Oh, for sure. That's how it was with me. Once I started listening to the podcast, you kind of get a backstory and like behind the scenes look at what really goes down at the supercrosses. And that's what really like sparked my interest the most with supercross this year. I was kind of out of it for a couple of years, but I didn't miss very many this year, and I was all gung ho about it. So I think the podcast definitely helped get people more interested in the racing in general also.
Well, that's kind of, I like I said, it happened to me where I cared about the motocross and supercross more than ever before, and I'm hoping that that's what we can kind of do with this. Kind of going back to last week, like I don't know how somebody that listened to Chad's show and how candidly and openly he talked about all that he's went through as a person, as an athlete, and I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, like you're gonna look at him differently after all the stuff that he said on here. You're either gonna cheer for him even harder than before, or if you were negative or neutral, like you're at least going to. I mean, I guarantee he's got way more respect, and anybody that listened to it looks at him differently than they did prior to the show.
Oh, for sure. I agree with that 100%. Just some of the things that he spoke on, the emotion that he actually like let us in on, I wasn't expecting because you never really, me, I haven't been at the races. And that even when I did race, I didn't know Chad like that. So hearing like his thought process and the emotion that he showed even on the show to let it out, I thought that was pretty cool. And I want to see more of it from more racers.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's like the ultimate pro. So like, I mean, I almost look at him like I look at top level like stick and ball sport athlete because he keeps all of his cards so close to his chest. Like you don't know much about his life, and it was so cool just to hear him open up about some of that stuff. It was awesome. He blew my mind with some of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't have thought that a pair of socks was some good luck for him. I'm a very superstitious person also, so hearing that the top guy in the game has a little bit of that in him too is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was impressive. So before we get into his show too much and talk about that from last week, got to make sure everybody knows Tyler Hamrick was AMA ATV Pro. We raced against each other for forever. You won Rookie of the Year, right?
Yeah, 2013 Rookie
Yes.
of the Year. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. You were Rookie of the Year in 2013. I was Rookie of the Year in 2014. So
We back to backed it.
back to backed it. So when you think back on your racing career, so you went pro in 13 and you raced through 15 or
15,
16. Okay. Okay.
15. I did 3 years in the pro class, 13, 14, and 15.
And I mean, and then people are going to also remember you from your days of dominating the A class, and I mean, you won a number of pro-am races as well.
More. I wish I would have won more, but got a few under my belt. A lot of podiums, a lot of fourth places, man. I feel like that'd been my average in the pro-am class. A lot of misses on the podium, but yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun in that pro-am class. And the A class, best years of my life for sure.
Yeah, so A class you would have been, that was like 2010, 2011, right?
2011, yes, yep,
Yeah.
2011.
Yeah, I remember those days because I was only going to a couple races a year at the time, and I was in the A class too. and it was like I was intimidated by you.
Oh, nah, that was my glory days, A class, man. That was, I don't know what else I could say. That was just fun racing, on and off the track. I was riding hard, training all the time. Not too much of a care in the world. I didn't have too much responsibilities, just, practice, ride hard, and, just do my thing, and then adulting comes along. You gotta work a little bit harder at it, but 2011, I gotta say that was the best year of my life so far.
Yeah. So then that next year, and I'd consider you one of my very best friends, but telling the listeners here, in 2012, that was the year.
Frenemies.
That's the year that we were both in Waldo, Florida, and Tyler Hammy, I refer to him as, was across the pits living in another trailer. And yeah, I was like, I don't like this guy. Like, he's intimidating. I didn't like your profile picture on Facebook. I thought you looked like a tough guy. And then I think you messaged me on Facebook about wanting to go run stairs or something.
Yeah, I put my pride aside and I thought, man, no one that I'm with wants to go to the stairs. And I seen you because I always was scouting out the competition. I thought, man, maybe he want to go do some working out. So I sent you that Facebook message, but I don't think we ever did get to running.
No, I think what happened, man,
you left or something right after that.
I left like the very next day, or I would have totally taken you up on that offer. I was having some like terrible motor problems and stuff at the time, so I think
clutches.
Yeah, that was the story of my youth.
Yes,
but
you're the clutch king.
Yeah, not anymore. But yeah, so I had wrecked everything I had, and I think I was headed north. So when you think of, I mean, it doesn't even matter what year, at what stage, whether it's A class, Pro-Am, Pro, what race stands out the most in your memory, or as like the most notable race that maybe people would remember you for?
Oh man. Honestly, I think every race in 2011 when me and Dalton Milliken raced, I think that was one to remember. We were always checking out on the whole field, and it was just me and him battling for the 5 laps that we got. So I'd say that, or probably my first win, I think it was at Wildcat MX in Indiana in the Pro-Am class. I think that was on Mother's Day too. So I never got a win before at the Nationals on Mother's Day. So to cross that off the list in the Pro-Am class, to me, that's something I'm always going to remember. But also, now that it just came to my mind, probably the win at Briarcliff was pretty freaking awesome because I could just see everyone from my home state cheering for me on the fences, the whole team. I remember the podium. I remember just everything was good vibes that day. And that was a hell of a race. I think it was me, Rastrelli, Cam Koval, and Ronnie Higgerson, just a 4-way battle the entire time after a restart. And, yeah, that was a pretty crazy race. But between them 3, I have to say, were my favorites.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'll give you one that you didn't even give yourself enough credit for. You got a 5th in the pro class at Millville.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
And
that was rough.
I got
5th. A little lucky, but that was rough.
It was 5th overall too, right? Didn't you go like
No.
5-5?
I wish.
Oh, okay.
I think after the first moto, I was so depleted. I don't even think I wanted to go out for the second moto. I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty sure I told everyone in my pits. Yeah, I was beat. That track, I don't like the sand. And I think I went 5:11 that day for like a 7th overall, 8th overall, something like that.
But still, top 5 in the class in a moto like that. I just remember like I came off the track because I finished somewhere near the top 10 or something, and they told me that Hammy got 5th, and I'm like, what? Because like for people that don't know, you do good on hard pack tracks, like hard pack, cornering,
fast tracks.
Hammy is the man, and for you to do it on the roughest track of the year, I couldn't believe it.
Oh yeah, and I wasn't in any great shape at that point in time, or that whole year. So I was holding on. There was probably a couple times that moto I should have fell off the bike, but I got lucky on that one. So
Yeah. Yeah. So taking it back just a tick. So yeah, so in 2012 we were frenemies, and then in 2013, was that the year that you stayed with me in Florida? We stayed together.
oh yeah, yep. That's when we linked up. We went, I think, early February, and we stayed February and March. Yeah, next thing you know, we're living together and going grocery shopping, going running, riding. That was a fun time, man.
Yeah, that was great. And it's still like it's not like we were like really tight prior to that. It was just
No.
I didn't have anybody to stay with me in Florida, and you didn't have anybody to really stay with or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just kind of worked out like, hey, we're gonna do this, and
We gotta get out of the snow and go riding.
yeah. So that was, I guess, where the friendship really started, and a couple other of the memories that I have with you then. So in 2000, and pretty much most of them are maybe from 2012. That would have been the year prior to us staying together. But at Muddy Creek, we were like racing pretty hard in a heat race in Pro-Am. We were first and second. And I think you had better pace than me.
I was coming. I was trying
Yeah.
to get you at every damn corner. I'm not even lying.
Well, I had ITPs on the hard
Oh.
pack, so that was my problem. But but yeah, so then man, I can hear Tyler all over me, and all of a sudden he's gone. And come to find out, his tire fell off, and that ended his race. And then there was a big fight, I think, between you and Dad about who didn't tighten the tire or something, right?
Yeah, that was on me. That was rare incident. You see me wrenching on the quad, especially before a race, and we're probably putting some new Hoosiers on, and I on left side of the quad putting just finger tighted the lug nuts, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna go do my thing, I'm gonna go be cool, get ready for the race, get in the zone, and I just left thinking, Dad's gonna walk around and tighten them up. Well, he just put the Harold Goodman on, and I think I did last like 2 laps, and it's a good thing it fell off where it did, or it could have got ugly. But that was all my fault.
Yeah. Thankfully, it didn't come off on a landing.
Yeah. Me and my dad worked that one out. He said, if you're gonna start the job, you got to finish it. So that was full responsibility on me.
Yeah. So that was 2012. I remember another one at Balances. We were racing pretty hard, and that one was the opposite. I passed you in that race, and you just about died in the whoop section, held on to it. It's a pretty iconic picture of that, but that one was special for me because we were
Both
second
on the podium.
Yeah, we were second and third overall, and that was behind Cody Gibson. So that was basically like first and second for you and I.
Yeah. That was. Yeah. He's a legend. I mean, I'd say the best prime rider ever.
No, I agree. You weren't shooting to win back then. You were shooting to get second because.
Yes.
I mean, 99.9% of the time he was going to win that race. And then I remember 2015, we were going to both be on the podium at Muddy Creek, and your bike blew up or something, leading.
Yep.
And then I took over. I think I was in second at the time and made a pass for the lead. Janusa ended up passing me on the last lap, but I got on the podium that day. But it's kind of bittersweet because you were supposed to be up there with me and didn't make it.
Yeah, we would have went 1-2 that day too.
I know it, yeah. And I remember Daytona, maybe that same year, maybe it was the first year of the Daytona Supercross.
Yep, 2015, yep.
And you and I were like really close, like we were like 10th and 11th, I think.
Yep.
And I remember this so vividly because we were getting lapped.
We were.
We got lapped by Chad, or maybe Natalia.
And others too. I remember others.
Okay. So anyways, I hate admitting this, but we got lapped.
Yeah.
And I kind of pulled over to not pulled over, but I gave way to the leaders.
I remember this clear as day too because I was so pumped.
And you came blasting by me. You came blasting by me and took away 10th, and there went my top 10.
Yep.
Some
I remember that. Natalie was screaming, and I looked back and I see him, and I thought, oh well, I gotta get out of his way before he moves me. So as soon as he went by, I just tailed onto him because I knew you were gonna end up letting him by too, because that's what we were supposed to do, blue flag. So I just pounced on that, and I kind of got lucky again on that. So I do remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah. So after thinking about it, thanks but no thanks. See ya.
Yeah. Top 10 first Daytona Supercross. Not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for doing that to me. I've reconsidered this whole having you on the show thing, but no. So a lot of good memories. You're a legend back in the Ohio area, and people still talk about your riding style to this day. So I really appreciate you coming on, and I know you're pumped to talk ATV motocross and the bench race with me. So really, really appreciate it. So let's start by we'll touch on Chad's show for a little bit here, just because it was so long. There were so many things I kind of wanted to draw attention to at the end of his show, and I didn't really get to. So like I said, for anybody that listened to it, man, there's no way that you don't respect the shit out of that guy. After listening to that, there was, like I said, so many cool things that he exposed that I didn't really know. Like, I wasn't sure how politically correct he was gonna want to be, and he didn't really hold back when talking about Natalie or how bad he wanted to beat him, or even now, like, he didn't say anything bad about any riders necessarily, but
no shade thrown at all at anybody.
No, but he was really real, I thought too. Like, he talked about, like, you can't really be that close with Joel Hetrick because they're racing so hard for each other. He needs that chip on his shoulder, and I thought it was really cool to just hear him be so real about that. So, like, what did you enjoy most about what he had to talk about?
Off the bat, I kind of got a chuckle when he said Mark Baldwin was a tight cookie. That definitely cracked me up.
Yeah,
we all know that's true. I love Mark, but
yeah, you texted me when you were listening to it and said that was the first thing you commented on. I'm pretty sure.
So I thought that was funny. I love Mark, but that's the truth.
Hey, how about the Lucky Socks though?
Lucky Socks, that was crazy. I thought it was pretty wild just to show, or when he said how mad and upset he was at Redbud when he known that he got spun out. I think he said first or second corner.
I was a little surprised he went there.
Yeah, I was too. But I thought that was cool because, I mean, we all know how it is. If you lose a big race or you think you messed up, you're in the trailer salting about it. So we all do it. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that and probably the testing with Suzuki. I thought I've never tested anything before. So hearing him talk about just the time he had to adjust to that LTR, I think he said like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And he said they are changing just everything. And I'd like to talk to him more just about that. I could ask a million questions on how, something like that would go down. Because in quads, you don't see that anymore.
Yeah, I had a handful of questions. I wished I would have asked him maybe a little more in depth. Like, I would have liked to have known when he talked about, like, going to the gym prior to even being a top rider. He talked about, like, going to the gym after work. I would have liked to have known what he was doing at the time for work and stuff. But I really wanted to expose the story that I knew and remembered of how he went from being one of us, being a guy who's in the top 10, fast rider, but he went from being a top 10 guy to being a race winning and then earning a factory ride guy in one off season. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, average guy to a guy that was feared by factories and they needed to grab him. So that's pretty crazy.
It's remarkable. It really is. And then the other thing that, and I didn't know the extent of it, but I knew that it was something that he did, and I thought I really wanted to make sure it made the show, was how he's his own mechanic. Like building his own bikes. He's got his hands on every piece of the four-wheeler, including the internals and building the engines on them, and piecing them together. Like, I think that's incredible just because, you know, you don't see that. Like, think about all the different stuff that he's managing. I thought that was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, you got to be able to not only stay in good shape and ride and get your motos in, but I mean, you got to wash the bike, oil, and then prep a race bike and just have all that stuff going on in your head, and then worrying about, you got a family now, so how him and his wife and kid are going to get to the track, all that. That's a lot to handle as a pro racer, not only a pro, but like the GOAT, the number one guy. So I couldn't imagine being that. I didn't work on my stuff, so what he was doing, crazy.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's pretty remarkable. And to be that he's like his own mechanic, he said he does all the wrenching, was his quote. And then to think that he's got the best program in the sport. I mean, he hasn't had a DNF in 7 years, and that's still going. That, like I said, that's just remarkable. And I had mentioned in the show, you know, he's the truck driver, he's the rider, he's training himself in the gym, he's the mechanic, he's the PR guy. I mean, I'm sure Danica helps him with a lot of stuff, and he's got, you know, he said he's got a tight group, but think about all the stuff on his shoulders, and he's still won 6 of the last 7 championships. It's amazing.
Crazy.
He's a living legend, and I knew he had like the rarest, coolest, most impressive story, and I wanted to, I mean, it was never even a question that I wanted him to be on for the very first episode and get that coverage, because I think he deserves it, because like I said, he was one of us, and now he's the best.
For sure. Yeah, he was my first vote for the podcast, so that was pretty cool to see that he agreed, and was so cool to come on and give us what we wanted.
Yeah, for sure. So I was just so grateful. I was so nervous before it started, and just wanted it to be perfect, and wanted to make sure he knew how professional and I was taking it, and how grateful I was for his time. And he never wavered. He just sat, and we BS'd, and it was a really impressive deal. And he was so gracious with his time. I was just so grateful for it. So yeah, anything else you want to touch on that impressed you about his show?
I liked when he was talking about battling with John Natalia when they were on the Can-Am days. I thought that was pretty cool. I think everyone from the outside in seen and knew about that drama that was going down, but I think that's still pretty cool. I like seeing that kind of stuff. I like seeing intense racing and stuff like that. Makes for good racing, good stories all around.
Well, and it's unique now because there's not that kind of factory support anymore. So you don't have 2 guys that maybe
fighting over a spot next year,
and you don't have the 2 guys that aren't the best of friends going back to the same trailer after the race. And back then,
far from friends, yeah,
they were going back to the same rig. You know, in the years after that, when they weren't riding for the same team. I mean, they might have a run-in on the racetrack, but then they go back to their own rigs, and
yeah,
you don't see any more. Well, they had to go back to the same rig and, you know, hash it
out right then and there.
Exactly, yeah. And I would have liked to ask him, you know, because Ryan Cox, you know, was the first one to say, it's gonna be okay. Yeah, it's gonna be all right.
That was crazy.
And then for it to come full circle and have Ryan go with him from Suzuki to Kawasaki, and then go from Kawasaki to Can-Am, and then walk from Can-Am and go to Chad's own program. And
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
He was obviously an integral part in developing that Yamaha. So I mean,
agreed.
It was really impressive. And then he went on, you know, now he's in the dirt bike world. And
yeah, wasn't he working for TLD?
Yep, that's exactly
for a
right.
Minute?
Yeah,
yep.
and he might still be.
Team
I know
dirt bikes.
He's still with a factory dirt bike team or a top dirt bike team. I don't know if it's the same one, but
definitely a guy that Chad wanted to have and needed to have in his corner. That's for sure.
I just thought it was impressive. I don't know what the dynamic was, but he must have been impressed enough with Chad that, I mean, he followed Chad as Chad went. So that was pretty cool.
We believed in him.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting was with the Suzuki year, and he talked about that Digger Doug had a clause in his contract that if he won the championship or was top 3, I think that's what it was, if he was top 3 in the championship, that he got to stay on with Suzuki for another year. Well, think about it. If that doesn't happen and Wienen is able to stay on Suzuki, I mean, that literally could have changed the course of ATV motocross as we know it, because if Chad starts winning on a Suzuki, I mean, maybe Suzuki was in it for way longer than they ended up being, or maybe they were still in it today. You know, who knows?
That would have been sweet.
Well,
That's
about,
for sure.
I mean, I guarantee he changed the course of Yamaha's approach. Yamaha had never won an AMA Pro ATV motocross title. They had never won one until Chad. Well, I mean, now they're
six of them.
Now they've won 6 of them, and without Chad, that doesn't happen. So, and they're the only real factory that's still continuing to develop,
and support our sport too.
That's what I'm saying, and you got to credit that to Chad, I would think.
Yeah, Chad and Thomas, man. I think those are the 2 guys I think of when I hear Yamaha. Those 2 guys. So,
and it was pretty cool that Chad started on a Yamaha Banshee. You know, pretty.
Oh, that is cool. Another thing I just thought of, not to cut you off. What about when he said that he got that Suzuki deal and he did all the testing, he got it dialed into the best of his liking that he could, and that I'm pretty sure he said that first race he ended up checking out and he boiled the fuel on it. And he was just thinking, oh my God, not right. Again.
You're exactly right. That was at we were in Georgia. That was the WPSA race. Yeah, and I remember he was almost like a mystical figure, because before that he was on his privateer Honda. So you just pictured him. I just knew of him from the pictures of him on his Honda. And then, man, I see him in the first time qualifier on his beautiful Suzuki, and he's got all this perfect color coordinated gear. And I mean, he, like I said, I was cheering for him at that point, because you're cheering for like the underdog.
The underdog.
Guy. Yeah, no doubt. So I thought that was really cool, and you know, that's how, like, we live in a culture where we build you up to tear you down. That's just what you do. Like, we cheer for, I think Americans in general, we cheer for people when they're the underdog, and then we want to see them fail. And I hope that the podcast kind of helped, because I think just the general consensus maybe is that, hey, Chad's won enough. It's somebody else's turn. And I mean, like, you know, it's.
I agree with that.
My point is, like, let the best man win, but Chad's story is a guy you want to cheer for. And while we're on the topic of Chad, let's hear from the reigning champ after his second win of the season this past weekend at Sunset Ridge. Brought to you by DID Racing Chain and their 520 ATV2 chain. So joining us after stretching his lead in the championship this weekend, friend of the show, Chad Wienen. Chad, thanks for coming. Welcome back. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Cody. And, man, crazy weekend. Weather was out of control, and you know, we were able to pull a cat out of the hat and have a nice overall win for the weekend.
Yeah, talk about crazy weather. I mean, and you guys kind of got a little bit of everything. The second moto wasn't quite as wet, maybe, but it was deep and got pretty rough, and it looked like Mother Nature had all kinds of curveballs she was throwing at you.
Yeah, the first moto kind of reminisced of like 2008 Walnut race where we did just one moto in the mud.
That. Yep, I remember
that. That rates up in one of those crazy motos where it was a complete survival, and you know, a lot of water crossings, and man, in front of the mechanics area along the whole shot, that was like so sloppy and so hard to keep your machine going straight through. That was a challenge in itself right there.
So you got you came out of the whole shot like uncharacteristically pretty far back, right?
Yeah, yeah, they held the gate like pretty long,
Okay.
and like the way I engaged my clutch and in getting ready for the gate to drop, I was getting my clutch pretty hot, anticipating the gate drop, and man, it felt like forever till it dropped, and I had to four-finger my clutch to pull it all the way in, and by the time I got all the way in, the gate dropped. So I was way late on the gate and had to eat a lot of roost straight away. So
I saw that. I saw the video. Now that you say that, yeah, the bike was all upset. So,
yeah,
so yeah, you came across. I don't know where you exactly started. You came across the line seventh after the first lap, and making that many moves in a mud race isn't easy. So I knew. I mean, it was going to be must see TV to see what you were going to do there.
yeah, that was like I knew it was going to be a tough race just because of the vision, the whole issues that we had there. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, there could have been a couple riders that did finish with their goggles, but like where I had started, I took on way too much mud and I had to ditch them pretty early. I was about ready to pull in for a goggle swap, but I couldn't tell if my brother saw me like signaling like for me to come in or not. So I just kept circulating and slowly picking people off and working my way back up to the front.
So you didn't have your goggles for most of the race.
I want to say I ditched them on lap 4.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a long race, and I probably had like 4 guys still in front of me.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to get on on track with your mechanic there, because you got to hope that he's ready for it, and if you're not, that could turn into a long pit stop.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, I should have talked to him about it before. That if I did, like, I'm going to signal to you, and still learning things. Just
Well, in a mud race, your mind is kind of racing before the gate drop because there's so much going on, and you're kind of like planning for different things. And I mean, that at least that's what I'm kind of thinking. I'm kind of thrown off just because I'm worried about different stuff.
Yeah, the prep is unreal for it, and the more time you have, the more time you prep for it. And like we didn't have our second qualifier, so we started prepping. So we had a really good mud prep going into that first moto, and I think that's why our machines didn't have any issues and survived.
So, a person next to me while we were watching the race was trying to tell me that you were monitoring something on your machine, and to me it looked like you were just putting your head down because of the roost. And this person thought that you were like watching your motor or something, and to me everything sounded good. It was just that you were putting your head down. So did you have anything going on there, or was it just you blocking the mud?
That was me just blocking the mud because I didn't have any goggles. And, I mean, we have like our temp light on our machines on our dash.
Okay.
So like I constantly keep an eye on that because, once you see that temp light come on, you gotta be gentle on the machine. So
okay. So you are monitoring the temperature.
I am monitoring the temperature, but I don't have to like put my head down to see it.
Right. Yeah.
I just keep it's a bright red light on our dash, and you can see it pretty easily.
And as you were coming through the pack, were you worried about like the water, spraying up at you? Because I was the moto right before you guys.
Yeah.
For a lap, I wasn't in the lead, and I thought the same thing. I thought, man, I can't take on this water roost, or it's going to stop me in my tracks.
Yeah, I mean, like I paced myself around the track, and I knew where the bad roost zones were, so I gave myself space in those areas, and I pressured in the other ones.
Okay, yeah, because I'm watching this race unfold, and it's so long, and I thought the same thing. I thought, man, there's so much water flying. You have to be careful that you don't let your machine suck that up. So and
Yep.
I'm sitting there thinking about the conversation we had on episode 1 about you never having a DNF, and there's all this water out there, and somebody next to me saying Chad's monitoring the bike because something's going on, and I'm like, man, I hope we didn't jinx it.
Yeah, like after the moto, like I'm getting off the machine quick. I pull the air filter off, and we had some water splash in our intake.
Okay.
And so I quick grabbed a towel and, kind of see how far up in there it got, and it didn't get in to the main intake track.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, like we're good. The machine didn't miss a beat. So we carried on with our engine in it and, gave it a quick wash and then prepped. And then we gave it another wash again because, it kind of, when it settles, everything just kind of slowly falls down on the machine and you find stuff that you missed. And,
absolutely,
we got to get a nice prep for the second moto and got a good gate, really good gate. And I got a good drop on the gate and we pulled out of there nice. And Thomas snuck around us on the outside, but I just kind of paid myself off of that for a while. I was kind of watching, seeing where Joel was, and I was content finishing behind Thomas that moto and not taking a chance of like abusing my machine too much to try and get around him and take on the roost. And I saw Joel starting to catch Jeffrey, so I started to pressure Thomas again. And that's when Thomas, right before the finish line, he took a line that I showed a wheel on him the lap before, and he went for it. And that's when Brandon Hogue was stuck in there with the flagger down there. It was all sorts of mess. And I didn't know it until after the race when he explained it to me, because I was like, man, did you get stuck down there or what? Like, I didn't see you come out of the turn. And he's like, no, man, like he was pretty upset. He had a really good chance of winning that moto, but when things are going in the right direction, they're going. So
I watched that exact way you described it unfold. You took the outside line, Thomas took the inside line, and you just about got him.
Yeah.
And that was that would have been going on to the second to last lap. So the next lap, Thomas darts to the outside, which what seemed was like at the last second, he darted outside to cover that line that you just showed him. And I was actually told today, so there sits Brandon Hogue and his motor was blown up. So he had nowhere to go. And I mean, easy pass for you. But I was in my head, I was thinking, Chad, if he goes outside again, he's going to be the one that's stuck. So it was kind of, just wrong place, wrong time for Thomas.
Yeah, I told Thomas too. I'm like, man, if you didn't go there, I was going to go there. So, and I didn't see Hogue broke down or anything there. And I was like, man, just bad luck. And a flagger's not supposed to do that. But I mean, who's to say, what you would have done if you were him in the moment?
Absolutely. But that was a blind jump. So that was tough. So so 2-1 for the overall at your home track. That had to be huge for you.
Yeah, it definitely was. And a lot of people came down even in the rain and cheered our team on, and we got a great overall win. And man, just coming over that finish line, everybody cheering for you. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned last week, kind of righted what happened last year for Lakin's birthday, for his first birthday. You got the win, so that had to be pretty cool too. And on Father's Day weekend. Yeah,
it's very big, and I knew in the extra little motivation to go get that win for him. And I didn't feel like, obviously leaving the track last year in 2018 and getting beat at my home track and both motos, but obviously I had a bigger plan that day. So had a baby boy, and this year's first birthday, and got him a win.
Yeah. That was you kind of mentioned that you maybe wanted to, like I said, kind of make that a little bit better memory for his first birthday. So that's awesome. So now you're up 28 points, headed into Unadilla, and you haven't been. You've admitted that you have more power coming out of that Yamaha now than in some of the years past. So is that kind of like a feather in your cap headed into Unadilla, which is probably the most, it's called the home of horsepower. So,
Mm-hmm.
so how do you get more confidence because of that? Maybe.
I mean, just more confidence coming off of a win, and yeah, my machine's running really good, and I got it handling the way that I want it. Like I feel like I'm one with the machine, and when you have that combination, it's a tough thing to beat, and I'm sure Joel's feeling the same way going into that round. He's had a lot of success there, so have I. But I mean, I'm just gonna pick my battles from here on out, and obviously I want to get wins, but that's it's going to be determined on race day moments coming out of the gate. I rip a whole shot, I'm going to go for it, and because Joel's going to try and get any way for me to slip up, and so I'm going to focus on what I got to do, and pick my battles.
Yeah, of course. So, and one other thing that I just thought of as you were talking there was you said you found something in the weeks prior to this last round. Do you think that the little bit of change that you found, did that help you this past weekend?
Oh, certainly. I mean, whenever you have tough conditions like that, where if you have just one slip up and you get out of the main line, kind of like Roskelly did, and you lost 7 spots.
Right. Yeah.
And when you have a machine that handles exactly the way you want it and you point it where you want it to go, I mean, it's a game changer.
Yeah. Well, you executed in such tough conditions. Like I said, the first moto running up through the pack, which is not an easy thing to do in conditions that were as bad as that one, which those conditions are about as bad as you're ever going to see for a motocross race. And then, in the second moto, you just bided your time. And I thought that maybe you were going to kind of settle for second, like you said, and pressured Thomas at the end and found yourself in in a place to make a move. And that's what you did. So congratulations. One other thing that I wanted to ask was, so the people that saw the race would have saw Thomas's roll-offs coming apart the whole second moto. And I swear they were like slapping you in the face and they were like all up on you. I mean, is that something that you were even paying attention to, or?
Yeah, like a couple times I would just kind of hang back like away from them so it wasn't like streaming across my face.
Right. Yeah.
And, a couple times I thought like my tires are going to run over these things and rip it out.
Yeah.
And, it never did, but right before we came down to that turn where he got stuck on the outside,
Yep.
He ripped his goggles off because they started to tug on his face and like try to pull his goggles off rip his head back.
Oh, wow.
And so he ripped them off, and I just about passed him because he was trying to pull them off going down that like big anthill.
Okay. Yep.
And I thought that kind of screwed up his concentration, maybe going into that outside, and that's why I thought he got stuck or something.
Oh, I see.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed like it just kept getting longer and longer, and it looked like it was like a streamer right in front of your face the whole moto. So
I could reach out and grab it.
Oh, no doubt.
Times.
Yeah. Well, Chad, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it. Congrats on the win, and hopefully you can keep this thing, keep the momentum headed into Unadilla.
Yeah, thanks, Cody.
So, thanks again for joining us. I appreciate it, and good luck in New York. So that was your winner from Sunset Ridge, Chad Wienen, and we have Cody Ford coming up, who was 3rd overall. But before we hear from him, a quick word from our sponsors. First and foremost, a huge thank you to CST Tires, CSTTires.com, for coming on as the title sponsor. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics. Of the countless riders I've turned on to CST Tires, not a single one has been disappointed. Join the takeover and upgrade to CST today. Our featured guest is brought to you by DID Racing Chain and their 520 ATV2 X-Ring chain. This patented X-Ring racing chain boasts a steel alloy construction for reduced weight, increased strength, and a longer overall chain life, setting the standard and making it the optimal ATV racing chain. Pick out the ATV2 chain at your local dealer or wherever DID chains are sold. Wherever you go, go DID. We are also supported by Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant. Our Sight Lap intro segment is brought to you by Evans. The best power sports coolant on the market, Evans Coolant prevents boil over so you never have to pull over or worry about your engine no matter what the condition. Designed for use in ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, snowmobiles, and more. Use what the pros use. Choose Evans today. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is also sponsored by DP Brakes. DP has been dominating the ATV world for a while now by supporting riders like Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, Baldwin Motorsports, JB Racing, Root River, myself, and more in ATV motocross. In GNCC Racing, they have all of the top 15 XC1 pros using DP, including the likes of Walker Fowler, Jared McClure, Chris Borich, Bryson Neal, Cole Richardson, and more, not to mention Hunter Hart and the top 4 XC2 riders. These riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them consistently on the top of the podium. Available at dp-brakes.com, purchase at your local dealer, or even message me for their contact info today. What are you waiting for? Join the best ATV riders in the world on DP Brakes. Finally, our fan question segment is brought to you by 100% and their new Armega goggle out now. Thanks to those guys for the support and supplying us with awesome 100% giveaways. Not to mention the new goggle that is setting the standard in moto. Now back to the show. As promised, your third place overall finisher at Sunset Ridge, here's Cody Ford. All right, guys, so joining us is Ford Brothers Racing's Cody Ford, coming off his first podium as a professional in only his 6th attempt, which is amazing. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Cody. It's awesome to be on here.
Yeah, it's we're grateful to have you. So, hey, are you still on cloud 9? Does somebody got to pinch you? Like, has it sunk in yet what you did last weekend?
Oh, it's definitely sunk in a little bit, and like every time, we do another moto or something, it always sinks in. And then I know Thomas is probably not really liking this week a little because I keep like just living on cloud 9 about it, and he didn't do too well, but he was just, he's pumped for me too, though, so it's kind of been good for both of us, I guess.
Yeah, from the outside, that looks like a really cool dynamic because I don't think we've ever seen that side of Thomas before, like where he's kind of got somebody under his wing, so that's really cool. Like you said, I'm sure he's wishing that was him, but he's happy for you at the same time. So tell us about the weekend. Like the conditions were sketchy. Like what were you thinking about before Moto 1 when the rain's coming down and there's standing water, and like do you think of yourself as a good mud rider?
I just really don't think anything about the mud. I just try to ride it smart and ride it good. And I think I'm pretty good in the mud, but I don't think I'm the best mud rider. I mean, I would say Thomas is better than me. And then with Joel, who had been working on his setup all that weekend, I was kind of nervous about him coming in there. But we came into that first turn, and Thomas told me before the moto, he said, whatever you do, the most important thing's the first lap. Where you finish the first lap is where you'll probably finish the race. And we came into the first turn. We got around the first turn. I pulled my second set of goggles off, and all I saw was number 28 in front of me. And I was like, oh, and so was Hogue in front of me as well at that time. And so we came in there, and we got to the bottom of the hill, and Hogue made a mistake because he was running small tires, and we were running big tires. And then it was just me and Jeffrey, and I followed Jeffrey. Jeffrey made a mistake by the finish. I almost passed him there. And then right at the start of the second lap, before that step up that you guys can't see the backside of, Jeffrey came in there a little too fast and blew out of that race rut that was there. And I just came in slow and made that rut work and just really was trying to ride smart and not throw anything away.
Yeah, so like you said, you ripped a killer start. You find yourself in second on the first lap. And, Jeffrey buried his four-wheeler on the kind of the side of that jump tabletop step-up thing. And all of a sudden, you're in the lead in a pro race. Like, did it hit you, or were you just going through the motions? Like, hey, I'm leading a pro race right now. What were you thinking?
Well, I was thinking that the only guy who really could, even get anywhere near me, and I wasn't really nervous of him because I trained with him every day, was the only guy who was good in the mud that I knew was Thomas. And I'm like, well, if Thomas is going to try to catch me, I knew we had contact in the first turn, me and Thomas did. So I knew he was a ways back there in the pack. So I just put my head down and kept going. And I led one lap, and then I was like, holy cow, just keep riding. And I did 2 laps, and I was like, did they all break, or where are they at? And then I did 3 laps, and still no one. And then we did that 4th lap, and then Joel came around us like a bullet, and I was like, holy cow, how do you make that line work? But Chad got us in the same spot that I got Jeffrey, because I made the same mistake Jeffrey did. And then I kind of got to 3rd and just rode there pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive though, because you could just tell in your riding, like you were comfortable where you were at. You know, you were riding like a rider that earned, the 3rd place finish, which was pretty incredible. So then after that moto, so you finished 3rd. I mean, it had to be like pure jubilation at that point already, because it wasn't 3rd overall, but you still finished on the podium in a moto, which is amazing. So going into the second moto, what were you thinking then? Like, were you thinking now there's pressure on you to pull off an overall, or was it kind of just go do this thing again?
It was kind of just, let's go ride this bike. But the thing that was more stressful about it was that we had 3rd gate pick, because, pro gate pick. We had 11 in the first one, then we got that good finish. We got 3rd gate pick, and the bike started cutting out on the last 2 laps. And the track was so muddy that no matter how well you taped it, it seemed like water found a way in those bikes. And we had sucked water into the motor, and like it was in the carb and it built up in the carb. So Jody and my mechanic Skyler, and I think Zane Baird helped him out a little bit, were swapping the motor as, in between motos, and you only get 30 minutes to do it. And the 5-minute horns going off, and they're still trying to put antifreeze in the thing and tighten bolts up. And it's like, just drives, your stress up a little bit, but you just got to let them do their thing because they're the best at what they do. But
oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you can't worry about that and worry about the riding. So I had mentioned this prior to us recording this segment, but so I watched the start of Moto2, and I'm obviously totally tuned in on what you're going to do here, because you got this 3rd in the first moto. It's amazing. So I want to see what happens. And the start of the second moto, you're back towards the 10th position somewhere, give or take a little bit. So tell us what happened on the start, and then what you're thinking. You had to be thinking, get as many guys as fast as you can.
The start of the second race was kind of just, we didn't really clear out one side of the gate good. So when we launched, the bike hooked up on the right side and didn't hook up as well on the left side. So she angled, and I almost drove into the side of who was ever next to me. So I backed off a little bit to get back straight. And then by the time I got back going, I think we were in 10th or 11th. And then I came around the first turn, and I was like, well, crap, I got to get all the way to 6th or 7th or better to be anywhere near podium. So I just was like, all right, I got my work cut out. And then we go into turn 2 at the bottom of that hill, and Alan was sideways, and there was 3 guys piled up behind him, which really gave me a big break, because that took me to 9th from where I was on the start. And then come around, and I see that 9 on the pit board. I'm like, all right, getting 3 guys isn't too bad. And then Joel had that mechanical at halfway, and so did Hogue. So that gave me 2 guys. And I knew I had to pass Wesley was it for the overall, because he finished right behind me in that first moto. So I was just like looking for Wesley, kind of trying to catch him, and the white flag came out, and it was a lap to go, and going by the mechanics area, I was coming up the hill, and he was just pressed in the backside of the hill, so he had about 6 seconds on me, and I guess he was having something going on the bike or something. So I just saw him coming, and I saw him kind of bleeding a little bit on the last lap, and I put my head down and just went to work, and we took it all the way to the last turn, and he really tried to defend it, but I came into that last turn and just was records or checkers at that point, because I wanted that podium spot really bad.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I was going to ask, because in my mind I'm thinking there's no way he knows that a 6th is going to get him, a top 3 overall. But I mean, anybody that knows you knows that you're a thinker. So I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise to know that this whole time you're doing the math in your head, like knowing who you got to beat, and on the last lap you get that 6th place spot, and 3.6 gives you 3rd overall. So yeah, that's amazing. Like I said, you earned it. I'm super proud of you, and I'm sure the whole crew is too. So hey, for the people that don't know, Your nickname is the Foreman. Where did that come from?
It come from the boys from last year, actually, just because they would do stuff in the shop, and I'd always get on to them about, like, keeping their area straight, and they would just say it was because I was kind of bossy, which I just like it to run a tight ship, not have everything laying everywhere, and I'm just, like, more authoritative than most people, so that's kind of where it came from.
Okay, yeah. Well, apparently the Foreman works through the weather because he got it done in the mud last week.
I think that mud race was, I mean, you couldn't ride it like a normal mud race. Like when we went into Texas, the riding style was still go fast, but be in control. There, it was like slow way down to go fast. So the track came right into my lap because I was, riding with more of my head than that, like records or checkered style, just overcharging the corners and stuff. I was doing everything I was comfortable with,
Yeah.
which kept me up so long, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's really well put because I was trying to explain that to somebody too. Like, you needed to be really, really, really careful, not just because of the water and stuff and monitoring, taking on the water, but also because you couldn't get off that main line. And so yeah, that was really well put. You had mentioned a couple times already Thomas Brown, and how he's a little bit a part of your program. Talk about how he's helped you so far through your rookie year.
Oh, he just is a great confidence builder and a bunch of things. Because it's like he's a top three he's a top finisher in pro class, and I get to ride with him every day, so it makes me more comfortable. And if I'm around him in a race, I'm more comfortable being around him. And then I'm not concerned with, am I slower than the front guys? Like, I'm used to running that pace. I practice it every day. And he has a lot of insight because he's been in the pro class for almost 10 years. So he knows tricks to the trade that you only pick up with time. And he teaches to me when I'm just starting. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's almost like you got an unfair advantage over those other guys. And yeah, to have somebody like him in your corner is invaluable, most definitely. So tell our listeners, what it's like to line up in the pro class. I mean, what is it like to line up against the best guys in the world?
Well, I mean, when you get on that gate, the one thing you got to realize is everyone's paid their dues. Whether it's the guy who's finished in first place, Chad, or the guy who's finishing last, everyone in there is fully capable of being in there. And like people come up and talk to me and they're like, "Oh, you pulled like 3 hole shots in pro am. How come you can't get a hole shot in pro?" I'm like, "You're dealing with all the guys who were on this gate. They've all been the top A rider, the top pro am rider, the top whatever class they came out of. They are all professionals at this. They are the masters going at it. It is quite scary because they do things that you don't even think are doable. So you just have to really trust yourself and your skill and realize you have to deserve to be there. Because as long as you ride like you deserve to be there, you'll hold your own against those guys. But the second you start questioning yourself, you're going to go right to the back of the pack.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, like that whole pro class is guys that have won every step of the way to get to the pro class. And then you put all the very best guys together. I always explained it like it's a pack of bees. There's always guys around you. There's guys fast in front of you, and there's guys fast behind you. And if you mess up, there's going to be guys right there. So yeah, that was some good insight there for sure. And you're part of one of the most stacked rookie classes in recent memory that I can think of, with yourself and Brandon Hogue and Alan Myers, and so take us through your mindset with that. Do you pretty much just worry about yourself, or do you want to beat those guys more than the other guys because they're part of the rookie class? I mean, how do you monitor that?
I mean, you just aim small, miss small. So you aim to go to the front, and you hope you get there, but you don't want to lose to anyone. So you don't want to get beat by anyone, but everyone has their good days and bad days, and you can't hang up on your bad days. Because if you sit there and you just dwell over one person, if one race, you go out there and say Hogue broke like he did, and I just want to beat Hogue, does that mean it's like okay for me to get last because I still beat Hogue? So, you can't over-focus on that because then it messes you up.
Yeah. Well, man, I love the way you think. It's like you're wise beyond your years. You're 19 years old, and you're already ahead of the game. So, man, it's a lot of fun to listen to you. So I wanted to ask this because I think it's a way that fans can relate to the top riders like you. When you were coming up, like who did you look up to? Who did you like model yourself after?
There were the Miller boys, and then a lot of time it was Natali. But the Miller boys were more like local. So from from '07 to 11, I was only racing like locals. We didn't start doing nationals until probably 11. And the Miller boys were quick, and you just always wanted their speed. I mean, I would never really put anyone up on like a super high pedestal and be like, oh my goodness, they're untouchable, just because of the fact that we all have to put, the same gear on, the same way. We all wear the same. We're all the same, and everyone's beatable. And that's kind of how I was always taught, is there's always someone faster out there. So, it's just a matter of when that person comes up, and don't get too overconfident about it.
Yeah, well, and it's cool to hear that because um, it's been impressive because you've looked the part of a pro from the first gate drop of the year. Like, and I think a lot of that comes from your mindset. So it's pretty impressive. So Unadilla is next, and you won Pro Sport there, right, last year?
Yes, I won Pro Sport last year, and I led almost half of the Pro-Am race too. I just made a small mistake, and they passed me.
Oh, okay. So is that you feel like that's a strong track for you?
I mean, it's a really good track. The only thing that's going to be different is, I've never done that pro section at the bottom of that hill, which will add a kind of interesting twist to the track for me against the guys who've been doing it, like Joel, Chad, and Nick, who've been doing it for a few years and got it figured out.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'll find that doing that pro section gives the track a little more flow because that kind of tight, 90-degree corner. I don't know. You tell me after the weekend, but I think you're going to find more flow doing that pro section. Hey, I got one more question for you. This comes from a fan. So this fan's going to get some 100% goodies for asking this question. He asks, "What sacrifice have you made what was the biggest sacrifice that you've ever made to go racing?"
Shoot, I mean, the only thing that I could say that I really is the lack of like being able to go. So I've been racing since I was 7. So I've never known really anything else. But if I had to say, like looking from the outside in, would be the lack of like friends that are locally around me, like high school friends, and actually getting to do high school things and free time. That'd be the two things that I've really lost: is free time and friends from high school.
Yeah, well, I read in the team's post, your mom's post, that it takes, what was that quote? It takes 10 years to be an overnight success, and so it's kind of like all the sacrifices you made were kind of verified. They were kind of made worth it because, man, you are a pro class podium finisher, and nobody's ever going to take that away from you. And that's something that not that many people can say because that was the first rookie to make the podium since 2011, correct? So that's pretty darn.
Nope, and it was also the first new guy. Like, we've had Joel, Chad, Thomas, and Jeffrey have been like the main 4 up there.
Yep.
I was the first one to actually break up those since 16, whenever Ronnie Higgerson got on the podium at High Point.
Oh, really? Wow.
Which was another mud race as well.
Yeah. I don't know. That's gotta be pretty darn cool to just think about what you accomplished. You should
Oh yeah.
You should be really proud. Like you earned it, man.
It's awesome. The only thing that's going to be hard is trying to carry the momentum, because you just want to do it again after you do it once, because it's just such an awesome feeling.
Hey, they say the first one's the toughest one, so maybe it'll come a little easier now.
Hopefully it does. We'll see.
Well, Cody, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. We needed to get you on the show after the podium last weekend. So congrats again. Super proud of you, and we wish you the best in New York.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Thanks so much. So that was Cody Ford, who was brought to you by DID Racing Chain, just like all of our rider interviews. And I'm proud to bring our listeners coverage of probably the two biggest storylines from the weekend. The late race drama and charge up to the front with Chad's victory, as well as Cody Ford's first podium. And now we're going to reintroduce Tyler Hamrick here. He's going to join the show again, and it was pretty cool to hear that in-depth post-race insight from the pro podium there. Probably not something you're going to hear really anywhere else, like I had mentioned earlier. So, what's up, Tyler? What's on your mind following those interviews?
Oh, a lot of things. But before we get any further, tell me more about them CST tires that you were talking about.
Oh, dude. So I'll tell you, I ran Maxxis. I was with Maxxis for probably, 5 years.
Sounds about right.
13 through 17. Yeah, so 5 years. And I was under the understanding that nothing could be as good as Maxxis tires.
Mm-hmm.
I bolt on the CSTs, and from the very beginning was completely blown away. The front tire, the way the carcass is shaped, it like gives you superior turning ability, and then the rear tires, they have, man, the side bite is incredible, the forward bite is great, the compound of the tire is crazy soft, and not only that, but it doesn't even make sense, but they hold up like better than anything I've used before. So a lot of times when I tell people this exact story word for word, it's almost like it's too good to be true until they actually give them a try, and they're also blown away. So literally every single rider that I've got to try these tires, there's a 100% approval rating. So and the other thing, so when I started running CSTs, Maxxis was still on the old style Maxxis, and now Maxxis has come out with a new tire, and the carcass itself looks super similar to the CST. So you can tell that they caught on there. So yeah, the CST Pulse MXR tire, amazing. So get out there and try it today, everybody. There's a sponsor plug for you, but no, they're honestly amazing. So good to get an opportunity to talk about them there. But yeah, so about those interviews, like I said, it was awesome to hear insight from both of those riders. Chad battled through the pack, battled the conditions, battled, without goggles. And I loved hearing him talk about setting up Thomas, poor Thomas there, but it's cool to hear him talk about setting up Thomas and then that late race pass. So, what'd you think about all that?
I thought that was really cool. Another thing I wanted to ask is goggle swaps becoming more of a thing in motocross. I see they have a goggle lane in the MotoGPs or MXGPs, and I know the motocross guys are starting to do it, and I heard Chad talking about that. Does that you guys do nowadays?
Well,
is that something?
So I think a lot of that came from at the Motocross of Nations last year. The conditions were pretty sandy, pretty like wet, pretty saturated. And there was a rider from overseas that like really, really messed up his eye. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where that started. So yeah, now they got that goggle lane, and you have to. I don't know if it's a trial year this year and then it's official next year. I think that's how it goes, but you can't ride more than 1 or 2 laps without goggles. It's an actual rule.
No way. That's pretty neat. It's different.
Well, yeah, for safety, man. Like, so I wear contacts, and in a mud race, it's like I can't take my goggles off. I've been there before, and the contacts keep the dirt and the sand in my eyes. So, it's almost impossible. In my pro career, I had to ride some motos without goggles, and still to this day, I'm kind of paying the price for it. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's a rumor that's gonna come to the States for the dirt bike stuff next year, and maybe someday that makes it into the quad world too. But like Chad said, I mean, if your mechanic doesn't know that that's something you're gonna do, that could, I mean, you could lose. God, you could lose a quarter lap, a third of a lap maybe, if he's got to dig in that backpack, find a pair of goggles and put them on and then have you go. So that's just,
Not good. Even 10 seconds, you can't have that. Yes, that's a spot at least.
And you knew it was pretty bad when Chad was thinking about that, even considering it, because I would figure at that point, maybe, I don't know, but it's just hard to believe that he was even thinking about it. It shows you how poor the conditions were. So.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. Sound like they're having some 2013 luck with the rain.
Yeah, every race.
Some race. Yeah, every race is pretty muddy.
Every race so far has been pretty muddy, and there were some sections on the track where, like in the first moto especially, like I had mentioned, I was the race before them, and there was 2 puddles on the track that were really, really big, like legit water crossings where there was like parts of my motor that were underwater. Like it was up to my front fenders. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's pretty wild.
It was pretty bad.
What were they talking about? A flagger in the Brandon Hogue situation. I wasn't there, so I just heard what Chad had to say about it. What was the flagger doing?
Yeah. So I didn't totally realize the quote unquote drama ahead of time, but afterwards and seeing the video of it. So I was watching all of this go down, and I'm watching Chad stalking Thomas, and I see a rider. I didn't know it was Brandon Hogue at the time, and he's stuck in the outside lane, which is 2 corners before the finish line. And you hit this little tabletop thing, and then you go into this corner. So when you hit that face, you can't see the corner. It's blind. You can't see the corner, and so Thomas hits that jump. He's already set up for the outside line, and there's Brandon Hogue. But being that was blind, there was no flagger on the tabletop. So I don't think it was actually a flagger that was helping Brandon. There was just no flagger there. And I think that's why Thomas was upset. There was no
one telling him to go to the outside.
There was no flagger telling you to go to the inside. So like Chad said, that could have been Chad. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, man, if Chad goes to that same line he did the lap before that he almost got Thomas, he's going to be the one that's stuck. It's just that Thomas went to the outside line there to try to cover it, and ultimately he's the one that got stuck behind him, and it was an easy pass for Chad. So. Like I said, poor Thomas. I feel terrible for him because he led, all but, 2 laps of that race. But Chad had kind of, set it up the lap before by taking that really good line. He showed it to Thomas. Thomas went to take it the next lap, and,
there's someone, yeah.
Right. The way luck had it, there was Brandon there, and it wasn't even like Brandon got stuck. I was told that his motor blew up, so that's where the thing hucked, and I mean there he sat. So
yeah, can't plan that.
Nah. So what do you do? But do you have anything else on the Chad interview?
I also like the when he said something about the overheating light. I didn't realize Yamaha's had those. I've been out of the game too long, so I guess that was kind of cool that they got a template on those.
Yeah, I think that's basically that's that red light that comes from them, from the factory. I did think it was interesting that they're using them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd think that kind of electrical thing would just be, wired out or grounded out.
But it's a really good thing to monitor that you're not overheating your stuff, for sure.
Yeah. All right, I got a question for you. What do you think Chad's big change was that he said he changed from the MX of Nations or the Quad Cross of Nations from now?
Well,
yeah. So he made a big change in his quad. I was wondering what that could have been.
So it wasn't from the Nations race. It was from I think an Argentina race where they raced in the desert.
That's right.
But that's such a different type of racing.
Yeah.
Or not even maybe not even the desert. It's more like the dunes, I think, like the sand dunes.
Yeah.
But I would think it has to be suspension related. For sure.
That was my guess. Something in the rear shock. That's my guess.
Based off a couple things that he said, I would believe that it has to be suspension related. And I was kind of watching him that day that he talked about testing at Sunset Ridge on a practice day. I was watching him a little bit, and he was working on his suspension. So I can't tell you specifics because I don't know him, but I think it has to be suspension related on that for sure. And I mean, now we're going to Unadilla, and he had mentioned, that Joel's had a lot of success there, and, but so has he said, and in the interview we had with him last week, he talked about that Yamaha is faster than they've ever had it before. So
that'll definitely help for
if that's true,
home horsepower.
Right. If that's true, that's gonna showcase itself more than ever before at Unadilla. So yeah, that was awesome to hear from Chad. He was gracious with his time again this week. So really appreciate that from him. And like I said, it was cool to hear that insight, hear the way he's thinking about goggles and the racing and all this other stuff, and kind of content you're not going to hear anywhere else. So I was pretty pumped about that. So let's move on to Cody Ford then. We heard from him, and man, he was a really good interview, I thought.
Yes,
he was so well thought out, and I would think that probably helped him, get that top 3 last weekend. You can tell just him and his team alike are like calculated. So my question was, are they like thinking out these scenarios ahead of the race? Because he made it sound like he knew basically where he needed to be. Because in my mind, I'm thinking there's no way he knows that a top 6 is going to give him, a podium spot. And he made it sound like he knew. So I thought his mindset really stood out.
Yeah, I was impressed. I've never heard Cody Ford talk before, and you would think that he was a veteran pro by the way he carried himself on the show. So that was pretty interesting and cool to see. But, getting on the podium as a rookie, that's something that we all strive to do, and never, I don't want to say we came up way short, but we did. And he just knocked it out in, what'd you say, his 4th or 5th pro race? Which was it?
It was his 6th attempt.
His 6th?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's really impressive, and to hear that he was doing the math and knew that he had to beat, what was it, Alan Myers?
Wesley Wolf.
Wesley, man, I'm messing that up. But he knew what he needed to do to get on the podium, so that's pretty wild to be thinking all of that through the mud race as a rookie, and you got all this other stuff going on, and the fact that he was just swapping a motor minutes before going to the line, that's got to be nerve-wracking too.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it would have been like to be, on the pro podium, especially in your rookie year. I can't even imagine. And then, like I had mentioned to him, it's such a stacked rookie class, and then to be the first guy to get that podium as a rookie, like it's got to be pretty prideful, I would think, for him.
Yeah, just think of all the rookies since we've gone, or when we went pro, to think of all the riders that were rookies at one time that never did that, and then here he comes, 6th race, and boom, in a mud race with a stacked class, he's up on the podium.
So he had mentioned also that other than Chad, Joel, Jeffrey, and Thomas, he was the first guy to grab a podium finish since 2016 at High Point when Ronnie Hagerson did. So that's 3 full years that the podium was always some combination of those 4 riders, and he broke that up, which is, again, pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's actually the last national race I was at High Points, and I was there. I remember Ronnie getting on the podium, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember.
See that? So I remember that day. That was another mud race.
And I was telling my my crew at the racetrack last weekend, he basically did exactly what I always thought I was going to be able to do as a pro, because I always thought if we have a mud race, I'm a good mud rider. Or I feel like I'm a good mud rider. I always thought, man, if I get a start, I will be able to stay up front. So he basically, that's word for word what I told my guys. I'm like, if he did exactly what I imagined I would do in my pro career, that sometime I was going to be able to put a good start together in a mud race and grab a podium or somewhere close to it. And I never did it, and he pulled it off. And then he did it. The first moto, he got a good start and stayed in the top 3. The second moto, he got a bad start, and I'm like, man, he blew it. That's what I thought. Man, he clawed his way to the front, did enough to get that top 3 spot, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, that's not an easy task, especially in the mud. If you get a bad start, there's no telling what could happen. Your machine's eating a whole lot of more mud, water, your goggles, so you just never know what to expect. And then he had some luck go his way, which no one's ever going to turn down some luck going their way. So
no,
that's pretty cool.
and that's why I, in a different media obligation earlier in the week, I was listening to some comments from his team, and they made it sound like there was people out there that were saying that he didn't earn it, and I wanted to make sure I told him that he earned it and that we were proud of him because, man, in the pro class with all those fast guys and all that good equipment, like you don't just luck into an overall podium. You know, it just doesn't happen.
No, especially on a day like that.
No, so I give him a lot of credit. He earned it and did what he needed to do for 2 motos and got an overall. So again, I was super impressed by his mindset. He does not sound like a rookie. He doesn't look like a rookie, and I was super impressed. And another guy that had a really good ride going on paper, but it doesn't show on paper, was Alan Myers, because in the first moto he was right with Cody Ford, or at least in that realm. And then he had a pretty bad wreck in one of those water crossings that I talked about. So maybe he's the next guy that's gonna make some waves from that rookie class, because he's another fast dude.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that either. Seems like he's been knocking on the door for the podium all season long. It seems he's been running up front, and it's really cool to see rookies get up front and mix it up with them top 4 or 5 guys, because for a while you just never seen that coming out of new guys in the class. So
so we'll
definitely love seeing it.
We'll see, but yeah, that, like I said, I think it's pretty apparent that this rookie class is the best one in a while. And like I said, so Unadilla is up next. We'll see if Cody Ford, what he can do, if he can continue that success. And but man, I love Unadilla. I always loved it there.
Yes.
I had some of my best rides there, and I'm pretty sure that I think I had my best pro overall. Pro overall was there. So I got a 7th there a couple years ago. But
nice.
You had some good rides there too, right?
Yeah, not too bad. Won a couple Pro-Am motos there.
That's what I thought.
A Pro-Am overall in 2013. That was a pretty good race between me and Brett Music. And I think Vital Kazanavi was on the podium too. He was always good to race with. But I was going to ask you, what are your predictions for next week's race? Who you got?
So I don't think that you can bet against Joel Hetrick up there.
Yeah.
I don't
Can't
think.
do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's where he's been pretty, like, there's a couple tracks on the schedule that Joel
can't touch him.
Yeah, Joel's been dominant at, and I think that, Unadilla is clearly one of them. That's why I'm so intrigued to see if between Chad's updated setup and the more motor that he says he has, I want to see what that's like. And he said he had some good rides there, but Joel's tough up there for sure. And then I know that Thomas either doesn't like that track or he hasn't had that much success there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see how that plays out. So between like that top 3 spot,
Yeah, I'd like to see Jeffrey get a nice hole shot and run up front. I know he does pretty good at that track, so it'd be cool to see him run up front.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens there. I know Janusa had a good ride there in the second moto. Last year he got a 3rd.
Okay.
So that's kind of up in his neck of the woods, so maybe that's why he feels a little more comfortable up there. So like I said, we'll see. There's so many storylines right now, and the racing's so good in that class that it should be super interesting to see how it plays out. And you never know, like when we go out to Unadilla, every class for the series it's just got a little bit different vibe. There's some different racers. It's kind of a different style track, kind of an old school style layout, and just creates some good racing. It's a different buzz up there, and that's one of those ones that I kind of circle on the calendar. So
yeah, always a good time up in Unadilla. I love that track.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Me too. The vibe is just awesome. So yeah, so I got to thank our guests for coming on the show again this week. Chad Wienen, Cody Ford, Tyler Hamrick. Can't thank you enough for joining us. And before I let you
Thanks
go,
for having me.
Yeah, before I let you go, pal. So when we were putting together the show, after I had done the interviews with the other guys, Chad Wienen shot us a fan question for our fan question segment. So I got nobody left to interview other than you. So I got you here now.
Oh man, I'm in the hot seat now.
I'm going to ask you this question. So Chad shot me a message and he said, what would you rather be? A hole shot artist with mediocre speed or bad fast with terrible starts? Tough question.
Oh man. I feel like probably the second one because that's what I was. I never got good hole shots, so
yeah. So
but I guess I wasn't really bad fast neither. So I guess I'd take that one. I'd rather be a little bit faster than I was. I'd probably go with that.
Yeah, you'd rather be bad fast with terrible starts and make the best of it. So
yeah, I'd have to go with that.
In my mind, I thought, man, give me a start and let me see what I can do. But then the more I thought about it, and we were talking about it around the dinner table, mediocre, I was thinking in my head means like medium. It means like middle of the pack. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if I get a hole shot and I'm mid-pack speed, that means I'll stay in the front half of the pack. You know. So say I'm fifth in some races, that might mean third. But if I'm fifth in every race, man, I'm going to be pretty good. Well, mediocre.
I'm taking that.
Mediocre actually means like not very good. You know. Or of poor quality. So. I don't want to get a start and then go right back to the back because I'm going to look not very impressive. So if that's the case, I'd change my answer to being crazy fast and not get good starts. But man,
yeah, because you could get a top 5 start and work your way up towards the front if you're that bad fast.
Exactly. You talk about the guys that are bad fast, and it almost is like the guy that gets the hole shot is the guy that wins these races. There's if Joel gets the hole shot, I mean,
he gets good starts and he's bad fast.
He's probably going to win. When Chad gets a hole shot, his chances of winning are obviously way more. And I mean, even Thomas is probably, I would argue that Thomas has had his best race of the year or his best season of his career so far. And I think a lot of it is because he's been getting some pretty darn good starts.
Yeah, definitely. I think his wins a win for him is coming this year.
Well, he already got an overall. He got an overall at Texas, and
that's right.
That's his home event. So, and another one that sticks out to me. So obviously last weekend he just about won the second moto. He DNF'd the first moto, but he almost won the second moto. And at the race prior to that, in the second moto at Muddy Creek, I mean, he stayed right with Joel and Chad for pretty much that whole race. So his speed is better than it's ever been before. And that's why, not to mention Cody Ford again, I think him being in Cody Ford's corner is invaluable.
Oh, it's helping.
Yeah, it's invaluable for that kid.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking of with all these mud races, it seems to be like the people that are doing good in the mud have a stock quad also and race it. So maybe during the week when it's raining, they're getting out there more and they're not afraid to beat up on the equipment because they got that stock quad.
Yeah,
so they're used to riding in the mud.
It might be that. Man, I wish I had a Yamaha to be able to race that class. I was trying pretty hard in the off season to get one and just couldn't pull it off. But that class looks like so much fun. Those guys, the thing that blows your mind is those guys are going like. It doesn't look like they're going barely any slower than they are riding their race quads. Like they're doing all the jumps on the tracks. It's amazing. They're killing it.
Yeah, just a lot quieter.
Yeah. It's like you can hear the tires over the over the engine. It's crazy. So yeah, that's an interesting question. But either way, man, it looks like a blast what those guys are doing.
Oh yeah. It's a good thing for the sport. I wish I was out there on the stock class. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you got anything else?
One day, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. You got anything else before we let you go, pal?
I think that's it. I think I'm ready to get this Unadilla race going and see what the results are going to be and see what we got going on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But so thanks again. Thanks to all our guests. Thanks to you, Hammy, for coming on. I appreciate it. You were a big part again and making this happen, kind of convincing me. You shot me a message and said, hey, man, I think you can do an ATV pod like this. And I said, I'm already ahead of you. We already were trying to pull it together, so it's been a lot of work. But as we kind of start to finish up episode 2 here, really looking forward to continuing to grow this thing and just add content to the community, because that was something that I wanted to make clear, was that there was no competition. It's not my podcast against other forms of ATV media. I just wanted to add to the pot. I just wanted to create more coverage for the sport, kind of maybe different coverage. That's why I'm trying to, we try to dig deep. We try to get you some info that you wouldn't have had anywhere else. And that's what the whole goal to my show is just to create more media, not step on anybody's toes, because let's be real, there's not enough coverage of these sports, especially for the people like us that love it. So I just want to bring more to the ATV community, and because it's not crowded in here. So again, can't thank you enough for coming. Appreciate it. And
thank you.
We'll catch up with you. We'll have you on another time soon.
I appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
All right. Thanks so much. So we appreciate all you listeners. We brought 66% of the pro podium to the show this week, which I'm pretty proud of. We tried to have Joel Hetrick. He seemed really excited about it, but then communication stopped, and I have a sneaking suspicion that the team wouldn't let him speak. So just know that we tried to bring Joel Hetrick on. I hope to have him on at some point in the future, maybe even for a full show feature. But so know that we tried, which leads me into our live show coming up at Redbud. So it'll be live on social media, or you can come hang out with us in person. There'll be more details to come, but it's going to be at no cost to you. We'll have Chad Wienen. I hope to have Thomas Brown, who has been excited about the show and wants to come on. I'd like to think that we can get Jeffrey Rastrelli on, whether he's on the team this year or not. I don't think that there's been an official word on who the 3-rider team is yet. But no matter what, he was on the team last year in victory, representing us and Team USA. So I'd really like to have him on to listen to his insight. And we'll try to get Joel Hetrick on. We'll see if we can get him. So know that, put that on your calendar. If you're going to be at Redbud, or if you weren't planning on it, maybe you should, because you're not going to want to miss this. All those stars of the ATV motocross community coming together for a conversation, and I don't know that we've ever had that before, not that I can remember. So circle that on the calendar, mark that down. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is putting that together, and we're pretty excited about it. So also, I got to thank our sponsors: CST Tires, CSTTires.com, DID Racing Chain, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, DP Brakes, 100% Goggles, and their new Armega Goggle out now, Armega.com. You can check them out there. Unparalleled performance for the modern racer. So just remember, the sponsors make all of this possible for us, make the show possible. So support the brands that support us. And again, thanks to all of our listeners, our growing fan base. We couldn't do it without you, and it wouldn't make any sense for us to do this if we didn't have listeners and people that were excited about it. So the response has been amazing so far. And if you're ATV enthusiast, if you're a lover of ATV racing, be sure to tell your friends about us, share our posts, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all your favorite podcast apps we're on. So just continue to help us out, help us grow, and let people know about what we're doing here. So, and give us a review. That helps us too. Or shoot me a message if you like it. If you don't like it, shoot me a message. And all the positivity that we've got so far, it's been amazing. I'm getting stopped at street corners. It seems like everybody that I see at the races is pumping up the pod, and I can't thank you enough. This is just the beginning of something that hopefully can continue to grow and be great. And we're going to continue to dig deep with the stars of ATV motocross. So yeah, guys, that's episode 2. I'm Cody Janssen, and until next time, thanks for listening.